The NBA postponing all 3 playoff games tonight. This all started with the Milwaukee Bucks not coming out to the floor for pregame warm-ups or starting lineups or the opening tip for Game 5 against the Orlando Magic. Then other teams playing later on in the night started discussing whether or not they would boycott. So the NBA steps in, postpones all 3 playoff games this evening from the bubble. Last night, after Doc Rivers and the Clippers beat the Dallas Mavericks in Game 5, he had some very pointed words on the situation.
All you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing.
And now, I guess, Avery, the attention turns to tomorrow. The Nuggets and Jazz are that first game. So I would imagine that if you're part of one of those programs, you're already starting to think, are we going to play that game?
Yeah, and I think all of those are million-dollar questions right now, because if the games today are postponed, okay, if those games are postponed and they're going to potentially replay those games on tomorrow, what is that going to look like? Are we going to play 4 games tomorrow, 5? Or the games for tomorrow going to be pushed back to the next day? Fortunately, because they are in the bubble and the NBA, they're in control, more control, whereas if you were not in the bubble and you had to play you wanted to postpone the game, but then the arena's not available the next night because, Chris, maybe they have a concert or something going on, or a hockey game. But in this situation, there's a lot more flexibility because you're in the bubble. And I think they were also planning on if there was a COVID outbreak and they had to delay a game or postpone a game because they wouldn't have enough players to participate, that since they're in the bubble, they would have that flexibility to adjust and move. And I think the networks that are covering the games, they would have that same flexibility. So since they are in the bubble, I think they can control tomorrow's games and Friday's games because of that environment.
Avery, as an accomplished and proud black man, how do you feel about what is transpiring right now in the NBA with these 3 games being boycotted tonight?
Yeah, this is really painful for so many people, because the shooting in Wisconsin with James Blake, that's not an isolated incident. It's a systematic problem, not just in Wisconsin, but all over our country. And we've seen it over and over and over again. And we've seen other situations where, like the shooter in Wisconsin, he was able to walk down the street with a gun and pass 3 police cars, and he didn't even get arrested or nothing, nothing happened to him. So it's just really unfortunate. But I also agree that real change needs to be made in our country. There is a serious problem with racism. There's a serious problem with certain communities not having access to the same type of opportunities that other people have. And I'm hoping and praying that people that are decision makers in our country that are not black would step up and help some of this change take place, and not put it all on the shoulders of NBA players and coaches and owners.
Heartfelt words, and we appreciate your perspective each and every day, but especially on days like this. Avery Johnson, thank you so much for your time.
NBA players making a strong statement towards change today. Here's the statement that is released by the NBA. The NBA and the Players Association today announced that in light of the Milwaukee Bucks' decision to not take the floor today for Game 5 against the Orlando Magic, today's 3 games have been postponed. Game 5 of each series will be rescheduled. Let's now bring in CBS Sports NBA writer Colin Warren. Colin, obviously the NBA and its players making a huge statement this afternoon with the boycott of the games today. I guess I'll just get your initial reaction. Seems to be a very unified front here by the players in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction is obviously sadness. I think that's kind of what the emotion that everyone's feeling right now, especially NBA fans and obviously the NBA players who have been vocal on Twitter and in person. This is a time that's supposed to be a celebration of the NBA having a successful bubble of stemming the virus, of giving people sports again. And now we're thrust back into this conversation of social injustice. And it's clear that the players feel that their voices are not being heard, that the messages on the backs of their jersey, that kneeling during the anthem, that this hasn't been enough. Even what they've been saying in post-game press conferences isn't enough because this is still happening. So overall, obviously a little bit surprised that this happened. It kind of came out of nowhere, even though there were discussions about the Raptors and Celtics possibly boycotting tomorrow's game. But overall, just a feeling of sadness that in this country, this is something that we have to do to get people's attention.
So, Colin, you talk about the players feeling that their message maybe is not getting through. What do you think a boycott such as this today? And there is 3 more games tomorrow. The Raptors and Celtics have been in discussion for a couple of days now about whether or not to boycott their game 1 of their second-round series tomorrow. What do you think that the players are going to accomplish by doing this now?
I think they're just trying to draw attention to the fact that they play in a league that is entertainment for people, that is a distraction. And, you know, there have been reports that players have said, look, I feel a little bit guilty about going out and doing my job and getting paid lots of money while so many people are struggling. And it doesn't help that they're sequestered in this bubble. They can't go out in their local cities and protest. They can't be active politically because they are sequestered here. So I think that their goal is to take away this distraction and say, look, you can't just take your mind off of things for 2.5 hours and watch a really good NBA playoff game. You have to think about what's happening and how you can affect change. And obviously, with this being the Milwaukee Bucks and the latest tragedy happening in Wisconsin, this might put some pressure on those lawmakers and those people in authority to enact change. But in terms of what they want, I think they just want to call attention to this, and it really begs the question of when will they end this boycott? When will there be enough change? When will they feel that enough has been done to go back out on the basketball court? And I don't think any of us can answer that question right now.
Are you satisfied, Colin, with what the league is doing? I mean, the league seems to be in support of the players. They've postponed the games today. Chances are they're probably going to be looking at postponements again tomorrow. Are you satisfied with the steps that the league is taking in support of this player action?
I think the league has been great so far in terms of accommodating what the players want. I know there were some kind of conflicts about the messages on the back of the jerseys. LeBron James, for one, said that he didn't feel he had enough input. So there's always ways that they can be more accommodating to players. But I think at this point, Adam Silver and the NBA have been really supportive of the players in contrast to other leagues where we've seen that not happening. So I think obviously in terms of their product and in terms of their league, they don't want games to continue to be postponed. But the last thing they want to do is be put in a position where they're telling players, hey, look, you better go out and play or else you're going to get fined or suspended or whatever. So as I said, we're going to have to wait and see how long this lasts and whether the NBA will eventually have to take action. But I think as of right now, the NBA is doing a great job in terms of supporting their players and their desires in these issues.
What do you expect to happen next?
I think there's going to be league-wide discussions. Probably, you know, the fact that they're all in Orlando together, there are probably going to be some forums, some player meetings with NBA officials, things like that, in order to discuss their next steps to figure out what needs to be done in order for them to get back on the court again. When will they feel that their message has been heard and that they will be comfortable going back out on the court and playing playoff basketball and providing what could be a distraction that they clearly feel they are providing by playing NBA basketball games. So I think the next steps is people sitting down in a room, whether that's Chris Paul and the NBA Players Association, sitting down with Adam Silver, whoever the representatives are down there, to try to figure out what the goal is here. Clearly, this was a reaction. People were just outraged and upset with what is going on, and this was their decision to boycott these games. Now we need to sit down and figure out what the next steps are, how we get through this, and what it will take to get NBA teams back on the court again.